Hello, hello, hello! Crafty Chris here for another Scrap Your Scraps Thursday night. Tonight we're going to be making a one-page layout using stamps and stencils, and we're going to be making use of our stamp platform. So a couple of things you're going to need. You're going to need at least two colors for your flowers and a green for the leaves. So that's one thing you'll need. I'll just put this over here out of the way. And of course your blenders. You'll need a stamp and a stencil set. Now, the stamp and stencil set originally came in this configuration with material holding it all together in that configuration, so that when you use the die and when you use the stencil, that it all fits together nicely. That is great if you're planning to die cut all of the flowers out and stick them on something. I wanted to use it differently, so what I did is I went in and I trimmed very closely and carefully to each of the flowers to separate them from this configuration so that I could use them individually, and I can still use the stencil and the die cut with this. I just have to do it in a slightly different way, which I'll show you tonight. If you're uncomfortable doing that, then just find yourself a stamp and stencil set that has individual flowers so that you can create your layout with those individual flowers. That's all you'll have to do. Or you can decide, rather than stenciling it, you will hand paint it. The other thing you'll need is your 12 by 12 stenciling platform and a 12 by 12 piece of paper. I have chosen white for this demonstration because I think it's just easier for you to see. However, I have done it on many different kinds of cardstock. This one is a colored cardstock with dots in the background. So for the purposes, I just thought white would be better. The other thing I have is one of my hand-cut templates. This is a 10 1/4 inch plate that I traced and cut out. I have a number of different sizes of circle templates that I don't have access to in a die or let's see, a punch or whatever. So they're just odd shapes and sizes that I use regularly that I can't get in an actual mechanical thing. So this is what I have actually traced my circle on. So I put my circle template down on the paper, used my pencil, just went around very lightly to trace out the circle that you see on my paper. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see it's very light. I'm only using that as a guideline, so I don't want it to be super dark. I want it to kind of disappear, and once I've got my base stamping done, then and the ink is dry, I can erase that line and not worry about it. So a little bit about the stencil platform. So this is my Sweet Petunia stencil platform, and it usually comes, when you purchase it, with a pad of paper. There's usually 10 pieces of paper in there, and 2 foams. Okay, the smaller one only has the 1 foam. So the idea here is there's a thick foam and a thin foam. If you're using the polymer stamps, the clear cling stamps, you want to have both foams in your template. If you're using a rubber stamp, that's that hard rubber stamp, you take the thicker platform out and just leave the thinner platform, and that'll give you the space you need between the top and the mat to actually do the printing of those stamps. I have decided that I wanted to go for their new product, which is, they call it a mouse pad, and it's a thick pad with sort of like a plasticky surface. So when you're using stamps and inks and mixed media, you can clean it better. I found personally that you can get replacement pads, no problem, but it was a waste of paper, and I'm kind of trying to be conscientious about my wastage of paper and paper products, so I've switched into the more friendly mat. and it cleans up really well. I haven't noticed that there's any problems in terms of anything I want to do with it. It is expected that you take care of your acrylic platform, and there is a product you can purchase called Novus, Novus, and it's a two-stage, or it has two different components to it. One is a scratch reducer, so if you get scratches on your plate somewhere and it's interfering with the work you're doing, this will help you restore the scratches. And this is the cleaner and the shiner. So if you find that overuse, it starts to get gray and dingy and cloudy, just pull out your spray and give it a good once over. I don't do that very often because I tend to clean my plates right away when I use them. So if you do that, you can keep your plates looking good. Now, one of the things that I do, because I have such a small space and I cannot move that way, I use my stamp platform like a book in the opposite direction, obviously, because I have the room on this side to be able to play with it. And what's nice about this platform is it has numbers going up the sides if you're using it the proper way, which is to open at the top or open from the bottom to the top. But it also has this in case you have to do a side-to-side print. So that makes me very happy. So now that we have our circle traced onto our paper, I'm now going to line up my stamps. And if you've not used the Misty platform before, this is the thing that makes it wonderful. So I'm just going to get my platform positioned, and I have two of the magnets. It only comes with one, but I like having two because I find that it keeps everything from shifting around too much. All right, and I do one at the top and one at the bottom. I don't do anything on the side that I'm actually printing on, but I could, I guess, if I wanted to. Anyway, so I have the thin platform and the mouse head platform on there. Now I'm just going to grab my flowers, and the idea is I'm going to do a quarter at a time. A friend of mine kind of brought this to my attention. What I used to do is I used to lay down my stamps, stamp as many as of the stamps I had. So in this case, there's 1, 2, 3 flowers. And then I would pull them off and lay them down here and then stamp this and then lay them here and stamp this. But she thought about, what about just turning the paper and leaving the stamps where they are. So that's kind of what we're going to try today. So we're going to line up our stamps where we think we might like to see them, and we're going to stamp more than once because we have our flowers, and you're going to put them with the stamp side down so that the back side is going to stick to your platform. So we have our flowers that we're going to put down, and we're going to try to get them as close to each other as possible. But remember, you want to kind of stay in that 6-inch range. So you may have to spread them out. In my case, if I had 4 or maybe 5 flowers, it might work out better. But I want to make sure that I'm not going to go over. So I've got to stay in from the 6-inch mark there. This one can go wherever it likes. And then here is the 6-inch mark there, so I want to make sure. And this has a bit of a stem to it, so I'm going to make sure that it's a place where I can put a leaf. So this is 6 inches here. Just going to align that about there. And I don't want it to go off the paper. So I have my paper shoved into the bottom left-hand corner. Oops. Actually, I'll put that up out of the way. And we are going to close it now. so that our stamps, oops, what's going on here? Ah, I've got the plastic underneath. Hold on a moment. That's very strange. So let's try that again. So this, make sure everything is aligned. Paper is lined at the edges. It's really helpful if your paper is actually square. Sometimes you gotta check that. All right. So I'm gonna put that about there. And my 6 is here. I want to have that so that it can blend into something. All right. You know what I'm thinking? That's too far apart. I might have to do another row of flowers in there somewhere. So I'm going to spread these out. And we'll see what happens when we put the leaves in. All right. So I'm going to close this down. Press firmly so that my images pop up. And make sure I align everything again. And now I'm going to ink up. And I'm going to try to avoid inking the sides because we know that I have cut these. We'll push that down. And hopefully I haven't inked anywhere. And I need my pressure tool, which I do not have handy. So there are pressure tools that help you to make sure that you get a nice, crisp, clean stamp. And now you can see that I'm missing some. The beauty of this whole process is you can stamp it again. So if you find that you didn't have enough ink on it, or you needed to press more ink into the center, you can do it more than once. And the theory is that everything will line up, provided that my paper is in the same place. And usually with your pressure tool, you can get those interior parts done nicely. All right. And there we go. Ah, my paper was not meshed. Okay, so we have a bit of a fuzz, but that's okay. I'm not going to worry about it. Once I do the stamping and stenciling, or the stenciling rather, it will probably look just fine. Now, this technique is not the best technique if you plan to want your flowers to look more randomly spread, because this will give you a repeat. So if you don't like repeating flowers on your layouts, you might want to there we go. There we go. That's much nicer. And again, I'm going to shift it. Make sure I don't snap this. Make sure I have everything lined up in the corners. Ink up again. And this is really, like I said, where you need your pressure tool. And one last round. And you can see that my circle is actually, I've done a great job lining that up, so it's actually mimicking the stamps, which is really good. Sure everything's lined up. There we go. Alrighty, beautiful. So now I'm just going to take my stamp chamois. I'll later go over it with a proper cleaner, but for now, just to keep it from getting glumpy, I'll just take the worst of it off. And put that back on my stamp. Out. So you can see this doesn't take very long. Now I'm just going to fill in the spaces. And I may want to add another flower. Nah, let's just see how it goes. Okay. So now I have leaves that I want to add in, and I have a bud that I also want to add in. So I'm going to take all my leaves and my little spiky fun, these little guys that make little, I don't know what you call those, berries or something. They're fun. So we need to make sure that we can get some leaves in here, and we want our leaves to have a base that they touch. This might be an outer leaf, so that it looks like it actually is attached to something. And this looks like a good leaf to line up with the flower that has the stem. And we just make sure it touches the side and that everything's lined up. All right, that looks pretty good. Take you out for a minute. And I think the big leaf, oh yeah, it can go here. Make sure that it touches part of the flower. I don't really like that going there. We'll go this way. Oops, I moved it. There we go. And that can go there. And that can go there. Okay. We may want to go 2 rounds with flowers in different locations, but this is where we'll start. It's just a matter of finding a location that makes sense for them. There we go. I think I'll do a second round with these little add-ons. Let's see. Yeah, I'll do a second round with the add-ons. I'm going to just start with these leaves to begin with and see how that plays out as we go around. Okay. Now, make sure we go back in and line everything up. Very small space. I'm just going to rip that off. Looks like it might be trickier to get these leaves to be clean. Okay, this is lined up. And push down. Not bad. There we go. Let's shift. Get everything lined up. Just keeps getting in my way. Flip this over. Try not to push there where I have ink. There we go. Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. Again, pop off your stamps before you reposition them. So we're going to take a look at it and see if we need more. And I think we do, to be honest. So I think we need something coming out of here, which is fine because if it goes off, it goes onto my mat that I can clean. So that works out perfectly. And that one can go in there. Actually, I think I'm going to change that. Oh, that's not very clean. Getting a haze. There we go. Oops. All right. And I'm just literally lining them up with, trying to keep them away from the image, but lining them up within that realm. Make sure that's not wet. Make sure this is lined up. There we go. we have a vague outline of those leaves, but they'll meld into the background once. It's all lined up. There we go. Oh yeah, that looks better. All right, so let me clean the knot a bit. Just put a little bit of cleaner on these guys. Got the 2 magnets. Oh, there's the bottle cap. Sorry, folks. Need a bit of a... All right, so I'm going to clean that off with the new, what did I call it? New something or other cleaner. All right, so you guys, that's all we need for our leaves. Now we're going to put in our leftover little bits of stuff. So these can come off and go back. Always put things back on your plastic, because I lost a very important piece of a stamp set last week, and I cursed myself because I didn't. Okay, so I didn't take the time. So we're going to have one there, and we're going to have one of these guys coming out of here. This one can come out of there. There we go. All right. Push everything back in. Get the ink. There we go. I think that's all we really need. So 4 rounds of that. All right, so now I want to hit it with some heat, because we're going to work on the stencil part, and we don't need to be in our, just take this off, give this a wipe down. It still has smears on it that need to be cleaned off, which I can do later. Just get the excess off now. Make sure you put your magnets away. So you don't lose them. Okay. And These guys I didn't clean off. So I'm just going to give them a little rub when I put them down. Now, what kind of cloth you use to wipe down your stamps is really important. Most, well, paper towel is absolutely a no-no because paper towel ends up leaving paper behind that sticks to the stamps, these acrylic stamps anyway. Seems to do better with red rubber because red rubber doesn't have a sticky surface, but I would not suggest you using paper towels when wiping off stamps. It's just not a good idea. Okay, that's done. All right, now it's stenciling time. So I'm going to hit this. I can put my black ink away. Don't need that any longer. I'm going to hit this with a little heat just to make sure everything is set. You can see my boo-boo on the corner there, but I'm not that upset about it because I might end up doing that across the whole thing. So I'm just heat setting. Doesn't take very long to do. Just want to make sure that it won't move. And you'll notice your paper will turn up. Okay, that should be good enough. All right, so now we're going to move into stenciling. This is a 4-part stencil. Actually, you need 2 colors of green. I should have mentioned that. So let me get my colors here. You need 2 colors of flower and 2 colors of green. Okay. All right, so I work a lot with the base template because it helps me to line up freehand like I'm doing. So that's green, this is yellow. So we'll start with yellow first. So when I'm stenciling, because I'm not a real, what's the word I'm looking for, real stickler for everything being perfectly beautiful, I don't mind using the same yellow blender brush from light to dark. I would never do it from dark to light, obviously, because the dark wet paint will definitely taint your dry light color. But when it's been sitting around for a couple of weeks and you haven't used it, you can start with the light color and move to the dark color and you will not mess up the integrity of it. Now I want to get rid of my line, and this is a good test as to whether these darker pieces are actually dry enough. So when I should be able to take my white eraser and go all the way around without smudging anything. So if I notice that there's anything smudging, then I need to hit it with a little more heat to dry it. But everything looks pretty good. Do I have ink on my fingers? I do have a little bit of ink on my fingers. I'm just taking some ink cleaner, putting it on my fingers, taking a paper towel, and wiping it off so I can make sure that I don't contaminate my page because I noticed a little bit of black there. Now there are some smudges. Not from the erasing, but from, I guess, when I was moving things around from one image to the next. I must have touched it somehow. I'm not going to worry about that because nobody is actually going to notice most of that, especially when I put a picture in the middle. and once the color gets on. So I'm starting with plate number 1, which is the base plate, and that's the base color, and it is the lightest color. And I want to make sure that I have the right stencil, and they're usually marked with stencil number 1. And now I'm going to go in and align. You can usually see something that tells you where the alignment is. So there's my funny looking leaf that comes out the side, which is right there. Now most stencils aren't 100% accurate, so just line it up as best you can with the image, as close as possible. I will use yellow tape for this to keep it on my, to keep it from moving around too much. And also this little bit here, I don't really want to see because I may go into it when I'm stenciling. So let's just line it up here. As close as possible, realizing that it won't be super exact. There we go. Pop open my yellow, my lightest yellow, charge up my color, and then I'm just going to go in and smush it around. And I usually go over it a couple of times. And then I try to pull the ink that I have on the template back into the item that I'm stenciling. And then if I want to see a little bit darker in the center, I can just add by pouncing a little bit more in the center. And then I lift it up and I move on to the next one. So it's kind of like mass producing. If you were doing these as cutouts, die cuts, you would do it the same way. You could mass produce it. And each flower can look a little bit different. They don't have to have the exact same look in terms of your heaviness or lightness of stenciling. Actually, if you know some are lighter and some are darker, it actually adds to the interest in the page. So I think I'll just do this one a little bit lighter. Make sure you don't go over the edge there. Okay. Oh, just needs a little more color up there. Alrighty. And we know we have 4 quarters, so this is going to be the last one, and this is the one that's all messy. But it's a great place for journaling because it's only the flower that was messy. All the other doodads ended up being just fine. Now this one I'm going to leave the center fairly white. And have the ends much darker. There we go. So I have some variety in the flowers and how they look. All right, so now we're going to move on to doing the base color in the others. So I'm going to take off my stencil pieces. I can even wipe down my stencil, which would probably not be a bad idea, so you don't get it on your hands. Just take off whatever comes off. You don't have to worry about cleaning it just yet. You just don't want to spread that anywhere. Okay. Now we're going to do this flower here, and I noticed that one of the stems has this very sticky point, which is right there. Again, I'm just going to try and line it up as close as I can. There we go. And this time I'm just doing the centers. Because I know I've got another stencil that has a different color, and I want my flowers not to look completely identical. And then my last one is actually a flower that's kind of turned backwards. Again, I have this funny little shape here that helps me realize where I need to line up. So basically right here. And I'm just going to go lightly over this. Okay. So now I think I'm going to be missing color when I put my next stencil on. So I just want to double check that. Let's put this one down. Just want to make sure that I'm getting those ends colored. So that means this stencil will go like that. Well, you know what? I'm going to do it as an experiment. See what happens. Okay, so quickly, I'm just going to take the color off. And I'll wash this up later. I always have paper towels around because I can use these and build up the ink on them so that I get a paper towel full of color to use in my junk journal. Okay, that can be washed after, but for now it won't make a mess, which is my prime objective. Okay, now we're going to put the second layer on. Oh, we need this first layer as well because we have to line up this again, but on the top. So I'm taking stencil number 1 on top of stencil number 2, finding my funny, excuse me, the funny way, and I got to put sticky on here, sticky on here. Actually, I think I'll put it down here. So on the second stencil, I have the stickers. On the first stencil, I'm going to line it up as it should be. I'm going to find my top stencil alignment. Like that, and then I'm going to press down those little bits and remove that. So now this is lined up. Does not feel lined up. There we go. This is, see, this is where it gets a little wonky because sometimes it doesn't feel lined up properly. Okay, I'm going to do that again because I need to do what the stencil tells me to, not what my eyes tell me to. Because what happens is, if your eyes are telling you to do one thing and the stencil is telling you to do something else, your eyes are usually wrong. The stencil is the thing that knows where it needs to be. So we are going to go by the stencil. There we go. Whether it looks right or wrong, doesn't matter. We're going to follow the stencil. And now we're putting in our second color. Okay. And this is our darker color. Okay. And we're just going to go around. Be very careful of the little pointy bits that may catch. You don't want to catch them. But you want to do this second color quite strongly. Lift it up, and there you have it. Always follow what the stencil tells you. So now I'm going to put the stencil on here again. Line it up properly according to what the stencil tells me to do, not what my eyes say. There. Lift that up again. Go in. Now, if you notice that your little spike is starting to pull up, let's just clean it. You want to make sure you put it away without any damage. So we're just going to wipe as much of this off as we can because we're going to use it again. Just kind of gently take your nail and bend it back. You don't want to fold it, you just want to bend it back into its flat position. All right, so now we are going to go on the second round. Get our second. So we're going to do these guys. These are the guys that I didn't put anything around the outside because I want to see what happens when because there might be white that remains. There we go. My stencil is off my table here. All right. There we go. I do not know how this is going to end up. Ah, it'll be a white daisy. Ooh, do not be careful of that one edge, Chris. It's a good thing darker green is going over top. All right, and shift. This is our last one. Now we're moving on to the small one, so let's clean up this just a little bit more. Okay, get our small one and figure out what where our small one goes together. Hang on a second. That's there. Yeah. Okay. This goes on top. That goes on the bottom. Align them. That goes there. There we go. Okay. Okay, so now we're cleaning off anything left over. We're done with this particular mask. And I want to go back to the first mask again because there is something I want to have in a dark yellow, that little guy that we sort of ignored. I want to make him a dark yellow. So I'm going to put this here and this here because I don't want to get anything on anything around it. There we are. Okay, so now I take this off and I'm just going to wipe off my tapes because I'm moving to yellow. I don't want yellow to transfer into green, although it won't make that much of a difference. And just make sure this is clean because I'm going to use this for lining up. All right. So stencil 3, as soon as I find it here, is the lighter green color. And it's for the leaves mostly. So we don't need this anymore for the leaves. We need it for later for the details. So our light green is going down first, and you're literally just lining up the best you can. Just mask a few things so that you don't get green. And we're going to use our light green first. So again, I'm using the same. This one is stuck with a lid. And I'm just going to go in with my light green. And pounce that in. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to wipe this off. And take these off. And I'm going to use the big green leaf first. Cover up this guy we just did. And just have these handy to keep things from shifting around. So this is all still the light green. And you can play with the texture on this again. You can make it darker down at the bottom, lighter up at the top, however you want to play with it. Okay, then we wipe this off. And we move to the next leaf. So we need that there. And make sure we get that nicely covered. There we go. And one for sticking. Pardon me. Okay, we're ready to go on the next set. come on. There we go. Alrighty, we're done with that leaf. So again, we're going to wipe this off and do our last leaf. I think that'll be okay. And just going to do a regular coat of green. Okay, there we go. And our final thing we need to do is the spine. And I'm going to put, first we're going to clean this off. And I got some purple tape here. My yellow tape is just about done, so I'm going to just do one of these, one of these, and this is a bit strong tape, so I'm just going to stick it on my lap and pull off some hairiness from my pants just to keep it from being too sticky. I don't want it to ruin the surface of my paper. Okay, throw those away. Alrighty, so now we're just doing the little stem in the bottom here. Cleaning it up as best as you can. Alrighty, so there we go, and we just have one layer left. As we know with stencils, there are always multiple layers. A little purple stuff stuck there, and I'm just going to clean this out, and I'll wash them later. Okay, just wipe off my tape. Now we're doing the last layer, and the last layer you need the first layer again. So these are all spread out relatively well, so let's see. So we're getting our leaf template, laying over the original template so we can align our leaf print. So this goes on our final layer, and then this goes over top, and we locate our green leaf and we line it up with the outer edge. There we go. And cap that off and uncap that one. And now we go in with the darker green. making sure not to hit anything else. You will notice in this next section that we went through very quickly. I dropped using the top leaf stencil because it was just quicker for me to actually line it up using the bottom leaf stencil all on its own. Got lots of ink on the stencil, so I'll just move that into the image. There we go. And wipe that off. Now, let's do our little flowers. This one I think lines up pretty good. Okay. So that's 2. Now, I have to figure out which ones are which here. Okay, so I'm doing these guys. Careful not to get things dirty if you can avoid it. So again, okay, and that finishes that green. So again, wipe all that off. And figure out where the next one is. So we're going to start on the small ones. And we're just going to get ourselves set up. Alrighty, there we go. And what do we have next? We're almost done here. We are going to put in, we did the veins on that. I think it's this one left. Got the veins on that one too. And just need to do this one. Okay. And then I just have the centers of the images. So, centers. All right, and then the final center. Which is this one. Okay, and that's it. Okay, so now we have to look at where our 5x7 photo fits. And I'm going to grab a 5x7 frame. Actually, I think I will use this one. So I've just got this popped in here to hold the spot, but it's the cutting out of the sections that hold the 5x7 photo, which is the important thing. Now, I'm going to put this on this side so that I can put something to minimize that double halo effect I've got going on there. And kind of put this in like that. And now I'm going to trace the outside edge just where it touches any of the flowers. Okay, so I decided to do a very close-up version of this cutting away for the pieces that go over top of your photograph. I realized that in post-editing that wasn't very easy for you to see. So I'm going to walk you through that one more time, or I'm going to walk you through it so that you can see what I'm actually doing. Okay. All right, so let's imagine that this has not been cut already, and we have our finished layout. So our 5x7 is going to fit inside the circle of flowers, okay? And so what you're going to do is you're going to trace with a pencil. Let me just get this lined up to where my already existing lines might be. All right, so this is where we've decided we're going to put our 5x7. Oops, it's getting kind of damaged. But all right, and then you're going to take a pencil, and wherever the photograph crosses a piece of the floral stuff, you're just going to put a mark on either side, so you know that you have to trim this part of the floral piece so it sits on top. So again, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go here, here, and here. This needs to be trimmed here. And this is just so that when I take away my 5x7, I know where I need to trim out my flowers. Okay? And I'll show you when I've taken the 5x7 off, you can see it more easily. And oops, I'm a little high, but basically that would have been underneath as well. Okay, so now let's go into this corner. You can see my marks on either side. So that means from here along here to there, I need to put my X-Acto knife to lift this up. Let me get a lifter so I can show you. So that my photo is going to go underneath that. And then from here along the leaf, so let me use my pencil, from here along and around the leaf to this point, I'm going to do the same thing so that I can slip my photo under there. Okay, so everywhere you see it, I'm going to be trimming along the edge that is towards the inside. I'm not cutting off these pieces, I'm trimming around these pieces. So here we have from here all the way around to there, and that lifts that piece up. Okay, a little bit on this guy. Move my camera over a little bit more. I don't have a lot of stretch on that side, so. And here I'm trimming from here all the way around to this side. So there we have it. And here I'm trimming everything from here all the way around to there, so I can slip my photo in. Okay, again on each side of this one. This one has been running a little bit ragged. There we go. I'm gonna have to glue that together. And from here all the way around. Oh, you can't see me. So from this point there all the way around the flower to that point there, the tip of this one, and then we're back to the beginning. Okay, and all you're going to do is use your X-Acto knife with a mat, and you're just going to take your X-Acto knife and cut along that edge from this point to that point, from this point all along the edge to that point. Okay, and that's all you're doing. You're not removing anything. You're just cutting around those floral pieces that are on the inside where the photograph will be. And then let me bring this out just a tad. And then you're going to insert your photo into those. Well, first you're going to erase your lines. You're going to carefully erase your lines because sometimes the cuts are a little bit thin depending on what die you used. Okay, erase your lines. You know where they are because your piece is removed. Now I've worked on this, so it's getting a little tired and torn a bit because I've overdone it a few times to give you the instructions of how it works. Okay, get rid of the pieces, and then you have your 5x7, which is now going to slip under these pieces. I find it handy to have a little helper tool. This is the one that needs the most help. And this goes down under there. And of course, this piece, sometimes you have to manipulate a little bit. This one keeps popping out. You can tape it down to help you get through it if you need to, or you just move slowly around, holding one side as you insert the other side. Okay, and this piece has to be inserted as well. And when you have your photograph isn't like plain paper, so it's a lot easier to manipulate. Okay, so there you go. And then this brings all those pieces over top of your photograph, and what it does is it helps your photograph blend in with your page versus having it sitting on top of your page. Okay, so I hope that was clear, but there you go. There is your finished 5x7 layout. And of course, once the photo's in, you could pop these down. The other thing you could do to take this one step further is to actually cut some of the flowers out as well and lay them on top of the odd flower to bring it out a little bit, to give you a bit of a three-dimensional look. More things that you can do are to add glossy accents and to add, let's see, a little bit of a gold don't know what this is, a Wink of Stella, gold Wink of Stella. So I would just go in doesn't want to stay. There we go. So just go in and maybe put some gold Wink of Stella at the tips. Make sure you've got this primed nicely. Gold Wink of Stella. Just on the tips of the little dotty things so that they give a bit of shine. Let those dry and then just put a tiny bit of glossy accents on top. Or if you want to do something completely different and have an immediate effect, you could bring out your stickles. And go in with either gold or yellow and just, actually I think I'll do gold for this. Just make sure it's primed, ready to go. Sometimes they get jammed up in the beginning. Make sure it's flowing nicely. There you are. So as not to waste this, take that and just put it right on top of those berries. It shows up a little bit better than the Wink of Stella because it has larger glitter. So again, the only reason I'm doing it with my pokey tool is because I just had to make sure that the original bottle would not be goopy like this. And so I could control the size of the amount of glitter that goes on there. And like I said, this does show better than the Wink of Stella at the moment because it has bigger glitter dots in it. And so there you have it. And then I would just go in with the actual, make sure to whip it off. Just go in and touch each of them with a tiny bit of glitter dot. And sometimes if they're messy, you could just take your tool and clean it up a bit, because sometimes if they get gooey and they've been in your stash for a while, they can get thick and gooey, and you just move it. Because it has a clear base, you're not coloring it, so you can just move the little bits of glitter in where they belong. Or take them off altogether if you don't want them, just to clean it up. There we go. And then the other place you can put a little in would be just in the centers of some of the flowers. Give them some highlight, and then just use it as like a pen Don't worry about dimension because Stickles does not give you dimension. It only gives you sparkle or pearl or clear. The dimension would come from using glossy accents or a product that is a dimensional product like a Nouveau drop. Okay? And then you can see that glitter picking up, so you would play around in more detail with that kind of thing to finish off your work. On this one, I have used glossy accents to create the sparkly dots in the centers of the flower. And you notice here that where I had my photo, I covered up a mistake I made. That's the nice thing about this, that once you put your photo inside there, your mistake gets covered up, right? So very forgiving considering the amount of detail that's in there. And there you have two varieties of the same thing. One on colored paper with a different ink and one on black and white. Now, remember I had this earlier issue. I'm just going to pull this out for now. I had this earlier issue where I kind of got the ink pad on the edge there. I'm going to do that to finish off all the sides. But I'm going to do it very carefully because you don't want too much of the black ink to be showing. And you're just going to rub it gently along the sides of the pad at about a 30-degree angle. Don't want to go much more than that. If you go much more than that, you're going to see too much of the black. And there you have it. So now you've got a black edge around the whole space. So this accident has been made into a design feature. And that's it for me tonight. I hope you enjoyed that demo and find a use for it in your own crafting. And I will see you next Thursday. Bye now.